So you're gonna buy some real estate for investment purposes and you don't know if you should go for low-income properties, working class properties, middle class, or the high end. Find out in this video. Hey, I'm Mr. Maciek, and in this channel, I teach people about investing in real estate and how I did it, and just general things you can do to build your financial freedom. So if you like that kind of stuff, please subscribe below. I would really appreciate it. Let's get right into it. I'm gonna discuss the 4 different types of properties you can buy as a real estate investor when it comes to single family homes, and what are the pros and cons of each. Let's start with low income properties. And when it comes to the monthly income, the return on investment, how much do you make per year to how much did you put into it, it has the highest return on investment. That's why it's very attractive to people. But now let me tell you the other side. And one thing is that I have a lot of experience on low income properties. Not only do I have a bunch of low income properties right now, but I've also had a lot more in the past with partners. So I have a lot of experience being the person who managed everything. And here's what I found out. You're going to have a high turnover. What that means is that people come in, they rent it, they may finish their 1-year lease, and then they leave. Maybe they'll stay for 2 years. Now, right now, I have one low-income property that is like really a low-income property, and my tenant there has been with me for 7 years because I don't increase the rent on him. I just keep a low rent. And this guy is excellent, but the other 300 people I had, they were not. So expect a high turnover, which basically means a lot more work for you, because every time there's a turnover, you got to go in and clean it, maybe repaint it, maybe fix this, fix that, replace something or another. You're also going to have a high damage rate. So there's just going to be more damage in a lesser expensive home. Also, you're going to have a high eviction rate. And some people like to hire attorneys. I actually do all of my own evictions, and you know, it just takes time and waiting in line. And now that we have this illness, it's just like, you know, it's hard. You have to make appointments. Also, property managers are not going to want to manage this. In fact, there's quite a bit of property managers that will not even touch this kind of stuff. They also charge higher rates for that because they know what's going on. They know it's going to be a problem, and they're going to get a lot more phone calls. Which brings me to the next part. If you're going to self-manage, you're going to get a lot more phone calls. I mean, this is just the nature of the beast. You get a high return on investment, literally in the double digits. If you put in $100,000, you're going to make $10,000 or more in the low income properties. And it's also really dangerous. These are usually in lower income properties that basically have trouble. Quick story, I've been pulled over probably a dozen times because, as you can tell, I'm white and I didn't belong in the neighborhoods where I own property. So cops would just pull me over assuming I'm there, you know, to buy something, you know what I mean? Another thing is you're gonna have abusive tenants. And I don't mean physically abusive, although that may be the case, but I mean emotionally and verbally abusive. And I had a lot of racism against me. So it's kind of weird that I never really experienced that before I became a landlord in these kinds of areas. But the real money thing is important, is that even though you're gonna make a good return cash on cash, you're not going to have a lot of appreciation. And that is really how people make money in real estate in the long run. It's about appreciation. So as nice as cash flow actually is, it's important to know that the appreciation is what's going to make you wealthy. And it doesn't have a lot of appreciation when the market goes good. One last thing is they're very difficult to sell. Now, in a hot market, yeah, anything sells. But in a normal market, low-income properties usually take longer to sell and they sit on the market longer. All right, let's go to the second type of properties, which are working class. And what is that basically? Well, we're talking about, you know, in my area, these are homes that cost about $200,000. I don't know what they are in yours, but it's lower than the median property sale. And basically you can expect an approximate 5 to 8% return on investment in our area. You should really check in your area to see what they are. You definitely have a lot less problems. You have a lot less turnover. In fact, you have a pretty good retention rate on those. A lot of people who get into these properties, as long as you don't keep increasing the rent every single year by a significant amount, will stay with you for years. And that is great because every time there is a turnover, it takes a lot of time and money, and you just want to avoid that. Now, the tenants are still somewhat verbally abusive, at least to each other, not always to the landlord, but I just hear it, how families talk to each other, how they talk to their children. And you know, that's an energy that you kind of are around if you're self-managing, and you know, over time it rubs off on you. And I don't know, it's just not my thing, but the ROI is my thing. So I do have some of these properties as well. Now, when the market is good, these properties sell a lot faster because there's quite a bit of people who are first-time home buyers that get into these properties. When the market crashes, it's a little different. If you were to hold on to it while a crash happens, it's great because a lot of people that were middle class downgrade and they just try to cut costs and save money. So the demand for these types of communities goes up when it comes to rentals, therefore creating a lower supply, higher demand, and prices go up. And properties will definitely touch these properties because they know that once they set a tenant in there, they're going to stay there for a long time. And that's less work for them and continual income. Now let's talk about middle income properties. The return on investment you can expect in our area is approximately 3 to 6% per year. Nothing great, but the money is made in the appreciation. When a good market hits, these properties really go up. And they go up significantly more than the low income and a decent amount more than the working class. Now, these homes are usually nicer and they have fewer problems because most of them are, you know, kind of newer. They might be about 20 years old or so, at least in our area. Every area is different, so everything I say might be completely off for where you live. Now, the good thing is that they are easy to rent because people love them. If they're shopping for that price point and they're coming into your house, you usually have a nice home because these are the type of people that know what they can afford. They are financially secure and have their finances in order, their income in order, and in general, their life in order. Now, when the market actually crashes and you keep it as a rental, they're much harder to rent. And that's because those people that were in those homes usually downgrade to the working class neighborhoods. So not always, but I'm just saying that the supply kind of goes up and then eventually people want to sell, but the market crashed, so they don't know what to do, so they lower their rent. And it's just a snowball of prices going down, whether it's the price of the home or the rental rate. But one thing that's really good is that if you're going to self-manage these properties, the rental property management is very easy. And there's plenty of property managers out there that will take these properties because they are so easy. And usually people stay for a few years before they end up buying. So the property management company then gets a client to sell a property to. And lastly is the upper class homes. So these homes in our area are about $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 and more. And if you're gonna make these annual rentals, then just know that your return on investment, cash on cash, is the lowest, but your appreciation is the highest. So as long as you don't buy right before a market crashes, then you will be good. Because when something goes up, for the last 10 years, we've had appreciation in real estate. Those properties have really skyrocketed. And even if it's 20%, just know that 20% of $500,000 is a lot more than 20% of $100,000 on the low income properties. Now expect more vacancy on these homes because turnover between one tenant to another takes a lot longer. The working class, the low income, and even the middle class, those ones are pretty quick. And usually there's a lower supply than there is a demand, but not in the luxury stuff. That stuff really sits on the market for a good 3-4 months sometimes before the next good qualified tenant comes in. Unless you rush to it and you don't qualify properly, well then you can have it rented all the time, but you're gonna have more problems. And also these tenants will not stay for years and years and years. They usually are there temporarily, maybe on a job contract for 2 years or 1 year, or maybe something else is happening. But usually they own property. So they're not the type of people that are going to rent for you for 20 years. And sometimes the maintenance costs on these properties is higher because you're not going to entrust the tenant to maintain the yard, the pool cage, the roof, and all of that stuff. You may include all of that as part of the rent. That way you know the property is really going to be cared for and you don't have to worry about the exterior going to shambles. And property managers love these properties because they get to take the same 10%, and if they're renting for $4,000 a month, they're getting $400, as opposed to those other rentals that I was talking about earlier, which might be $1,500 a month, $150. Same amount of work, if not less. If you like this video, please give it a like. I would really appreciate that. Helps tell the YouTube algorithm that this is valuable. And also take a look at this video right here. It's one that's going to talk about how to get into real estate investing if you're considering this. And I highly recommend it. So thanks for watching.